Hello and welcome to our special Week 1 quick drop episode preview thing of the MLS Fantasy Insider podcast / video. I don't know. We're doing that extra time thing now, kind of too, where we've got videos and podcasts, but we have far less money, so it's better. I'm Reid Connolly, aka MLS Fantasy Boss from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and I've got with me video live here Mike Denton and Blayne Riffle, our usual co-hosts. How you guys doing? Oh, and little Lily.
Hey, hi, Lily.
You're doing well, but wait a minute. I think we did the video thing first, so really it's our thing that Extra Time is copying.
Yeah, I think we'll go with that. We'll just run with that.
Definitely.
We're trendsetters. Trendsetters. That's what we're going to say for the fantasy world. So what we're doing tonight, guys.
Speaking of Extra Time, before we get any further,
go ahead.
I'm so disappointed in all of you for voting Weeby back into our league. I hate all of you. You all disappoint me. Jay may say that he loves all of our Patreon people and listeners all the time. No. It is pure anger from me.
He's contractually obligated to do that. So
yeah, he's contractually obligated, but I'm a lawyer. I'm not contractually obligated to do anything.
That's true. No, this is definitely the year of redemption for Weeby. So he was not relegated. He's still in our league. We had that little vote last time. If you guys caught the last show, I think you did. That's why we're doing this podcast, though. We did an Eastern Conference preview. We did a Western Conference preview, as usual, that we do for every season. But it's really tight for when the season's starting this year, and we didn't have time to focus on round one picks. And I know everyone likes to have that help, especially on round one, and especially for new people. This is what we do every week. So we've got a special episode here. I'm hoping it's going to last about 20-ish minutes. We'll see. But we're just going to talk the picks from round one and who we're looking at, some general, and then we'll give our final picks there. And we'll still have the chalkboard at the end of this, right before the round starts, for those of you who may not have time to listen to this show and the other shows. One quick plug before we start. Our good friend, Older Goaler, he helps out over at the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord chat, and you see him on Twitter a lot, has some great little fun twists to the fantasy season. For the past 4 years, he's been running a league that is called Fantasy for Kids. And what it's designed to do is for parents to play with their kids to help get them into the fantasy game. So basically, moms, dads out there, you would have an account and you would work with your children to participate in the fantasy experience, because they can't officially have accounts when they're under 13. And this is ideally for kids 8 to 13, so that you can help build that interest in fantasy and the league and soccer in general, and just be a fun bonding time with parents. So he has this special league, Fantasy for Kids. If you want to join, they're still looking for people. His son actually was a round winning number 1 point scoring player last season, which was a lot of fun. Congrats, Jack, right there. But yeah, check him out at Older Goaler on Twitter if you want an invite to the Fantasy for Kids League. Also head over to r/fantasy MLS. You can find invite instructions and the league link right there too. So big props to Older Goaler for doing that and really helping get the kids involved. Clap, point. All right, guys. Now we're going to talk player picks for round one. We're going to start with the keepers and keepers and defenders in just one little lump, that whole defensive unit thing right there. So Mike, who are you looking at, or just what are your general thoughts about goalkeepers and defenders for round one, and how should people be approaching that?
Well, I think, we're looking at keepers and goalkeepers, keepers and defenders this week. It's really just to kind of first identify who your clean sheet options are, and then find the cheapest defender on those teams. You don't want to spend a whole lot of money on the defense with the budget so tight at the beginning of the year, and things kind of sorting itself out. You pretty much just want to take your clean sheet tickets and get out of there and put your money into up front to deciding between the Zlatans and Laderos and all that for week one. So for me, there's a few teams that I'm looking at this week. First, I think it obviously is Seattle. FC Cincinnati does not have a really attacking midfielder. They only have Fernando Adi. They're on the road. Even with Seattle trying to replace Ozzy Alonso, I think that's a great shout for a clean sheet. So right now I have Stefan Fry and Kim Keehee in my team. Fry is a premium goalie at $6 million. Keehee is at 5.5. Another one I'm looking at is Dallas. The Revs have had a really poor preseason. They had a poor last season, or end to last season. So right now I have Hod 4.5, so great option there to kind of get through. Philly, I think, is another one. TFC doesn't have Josie Altidore yet. I don't think they'll have their new DP signing yet either for this game. So I think it's a good opportunity for Philly at home to get it. And by the way, if you're brand new, don't pick defenders or goalkeepers who are away. You only want to pick home. That's generally true all around your team, but especially for defenders and keepers. Don't try to get cute. And then lastly, I have right now in Beta Shore at 6 million, LAFC. My thought there is I think Sporting Kansas City is going to rotate heavily before their next round at CCL. They're going to be on the road in LA. So I think LAFC might have a good shot at a clean sheet. I think this might be a good time to but I kind of have that as like a special role, like that I'm going to kind of look through the weekend and depending on the lineups. I'm really interested to see, for example, how the Red Bulls rotate. If we see Red Bulls USL team in Columbus, I may switch Beta Shore to a Columbus player.
That's a team to watch out for because the CCL has a big impact, but New York Red Bulls pretty much rolled out a Red Bulls 2 team in this second leg, still got the win. They had that buffer. So we could see some of the premium starting Red Bulls players play against Columbus this week.
Well, I mean, they subbed people off early. I wouldn't say it's a Red Bulls. I mean, the Red Bulls are such a deep team that I'm generally not super inclined to say, oh, yeah, just because the Red Bulls are rotating that Columbus will just run all over them. That's not the case. We saw that last year when they put out all scrubs and those scrubs beat Portland like 3 or 4-1 or something like that, if you remember that result. So it's different for the other CCL teams, namely Atlanta, Sporting Kansas City, Houston, where I don't think they have the depth that the Red Bulls do to be able to kind of do that rotation. But I think it's something I'm going to be paying attention to for a clean sheet anyway.
Before we get to you, Blayne, I will mention the other CCL teams right now. As we're recording, Atlanta has just finished winning. Shocker for me. I did not think they could do it. Excited that they did. I'm very glad. But they went all out with their A team there. And then Sporting Kansas City is playing right now up 1-0. I think they've got that one in the bag. But they've also gone out.
Could have to score 5.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. But no, I think they've got that in the bag, and they've rolled out their A team as well. So that's definitely a good chance. Those are both later games this round, so be mindful of that. But Houston also did not roll out their A team in their match as well. They definitely rolled out their solid B team. Some guys rotated in for the subs about the 60-minute or 70-minute mark, I want to say. But they had some of those, like the Minotas people. Their defense was a bit more usual, but they did so those attacking players. They also had heavy rotations in CCL, so that's something to keep in mind. We'll probably talk about later, though. Do you have anything else to wrap up, Mike, with your picks, or we're going to go to Blayne now?
No, that's it. Those are my 4. I will mention right now I have Brian Rowe from Orlando and in a keeper spot just because he's 4.5, so it's pretty cheap for a keeper. I have 1 million in the bank to kind of play around with that. If I kind of change my mind, but Orlando's the second game of the round, so it's pretty easy to do a keeperoo using that. So that's kind of what I have right now, in case New York City's struggles to score continue.
All right, Blayne, your general strategy, and who do you have in your lineup right now? You're muted, Blayne.
We can't hear you, babe.
Well,
Blayne is looking confused.
Blayne is confused. While Blayne is getting his technical difficulties worked out, the magic of all this recording from multiple states. Jason can't be with us tonight, so I'll go ahead and give you his information that he sent to me via the Twitterverse very quickly. He sent me his lineup. There were some tweaks. He was chatting with us, trying to find some values beforehand because he's all about those differentials. But I will read that for you while Blayne's doing his little technical thing. On the keeper side, Jason is starting with Blake, and then he has Vega on the bench. Vega's from San Antonio. I was talking to someone about San Antonio just a little bit ago. he is from San Jose. No, I did. Sherry from one of our Patreon supporters. She's moved down there, and so we were talking San Antonio. But San Jose is where Vega's from. 4.0 keeper, likely going to be the starter, so he's got him on the bench. He's got Blake in his starting lineup, 5.5. Some people could leverage that to a switcheroo, but Jay's just going with it straight up that way. On his defense in the start, he's got El Munir from LAFC, also someone a little bit cheaper side from Mike at 4.5. Then he's got Smith over in Seattle at $5 million. He's going to be on the left side, and they're expecting to do a lot of pushing right there. He's got a little scrub defender right there from LA, and then on his bench, he has Fabinho from Philly, and he also has Ryan Hollingshead, which I believe you mentioned as well, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's who Jason got. Blayne dropped out, came back. You got some sound now, buddy? You do not have sound now, buddy. We'll let you keep working on that. So while Blayne is doing that,
Smith from Seattle the one you were concerned about with an injury?
Yes,
There's like two. I couldn't remember if it was the Smith from Colorado or the Smith from Seattle.
It was the Smith from
like
Seattle. So for me, my general approach for keepers and defenders, at least in this round one, is I want to put as much money into my attack as I can. I tweeted out a little bit earlier some of the historical stats for goals scored and clean sheets in the opening week. And for the past 5 years, it's kind of rotated between high 20, 30 plus scoring rounds and kind of lower in the teens, sub 20 scores in the first round. Clean sheets are always 5 to 7, something like that. So I think the highest was 9 of the past few years. So not a whole lot of clean sheets usually in the first week. So for me, that means I want attacking players. So cheap defense, budget defense. Kind of don't even really care if they're going to get clean sheets or not, but I want the home players so they have the better chance. So at keeper right now, I have Vega on my bench. Mostly because I'm going to check and see what starting lineups look like to decide if I want to do a Blake. But at this point, I'm probably going to put Vega back in to just go straight up with him and just see how that works out. Even if I leave him on the bench, I could still wait to see what his points are and maybe bring in someone from either DC or LA later, LAFC later in the week. But I probably just might go with him. That'd be for a keeper-roo. I'll talk about that later in another video we have coming out. On my bench, equally as budget, I also have Ryan Hollingshead from Dallas, 4.5 on the left side. He's a very versatile player. I'd expect him to have a very attacking spirit and maybe get some assists or something, especially against that hurting New England team. But he's very nice value. I also have Smith, and as Mike said, there were some concerns about Smith and an injury. He got subbed off in their last preseason game, and some people were worried about that. They just said it was a precaution, they being the coaching staff, and so he was taken off to make sure there was some tightness there. If he does not play, then you're looking at Tolo as a replacement for him, who is 4.5, so even better with the budget. For me, I have Smith in there right now because if he starts, that's great. I'll be able to see that. If he doesn't, I can save myself 0.5, but I'm not going to spend that. So I don't find myself short later. So I got Smith in there. On the defense bench that I have for coming in, I have Francis from Columbus, and I have Gaddis from Philadelphia. Gaddis has just come back and looks like he may be starting on the right side, so I've got him a nice 4.5. Francis is also 4.5, and he's filling in for an injury, so a very budget Columbus player there. I have them on the bench because I am worried about the Red Bulls, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with Toronto, so I'll just take whoever's the higher of the two and roll with it. Blayne, do we have some sound from you now? We still do not have sound from you. I am baffled. Perhaps Lily pulled something. Perhaps now you're muted. So
just muted.
There we go. Hey! There we go. We got it.
I don't know what was going on there. So
that was
I'll blame Lily for the text.
Because MLS. That's what.
I think Lily was trying to save us from his terrible picks.
She was. So Blayne, what's your general strategy for defenders and keepers, and who do you got?
I started by looking at who my best clean sheet options were, and really the only team that massively jumped out at me was Seattle. I like Dallas's chances. I like Philly's chances as two of your other teams, but both TFC and New England have the scores that you kind of got to worry about at times. So I just Seattle's where I want to load up, but this new 3 players per team thing really changes it.
It does.
So then
I said it would.
So it's looking at budget options everywhere else, and so I took care of it. I took care of it that way. I'm like, okay, Philly's got some cheap guys. Dallas has got a couple cheap guys. Blake's kind of my number one keeper that I've looked at here just because of the way the rest of the lineups work out. So it's just kind of a hodgepodge between who's going to actually start and what prices are going to be there between really Dallas, Philly, and Seattle, but I would be loading up with Seattle if I didn't like their attacking options in this week so much better.
Yeah, it's a rough week for trying to hunt clean sheets. I mean, you've got Philadelphia against Toronto. Who knows what that's going to be with their CCL action there. A lot of the teams that are typically the better attacking teams and better defending teams are away this week. And as we tend to believe in this show, if you're new and just tuning in, the home advantage is so real in MLS that it just really makes sense to lean towards the home teams in those situations. And just a lot of the ones you're unsure about. Dallas is solid.
Yeah. And the one road team that really jumped out at me, and it's because I have no faith in their opponent, is Montreal, playing in San Jose. Like, this is one of those road teams where I really want to try to take a flyer on it, and Evan Bush has been in an early draft in my lineup, and I'm just switching him out tonight because I know the home field advantage is so important in MLS. But Bush is one of those guys. Yeah, and it's just... It's that home field advantage. If it was in Montreal, I think Evan Bush and 2 defenders, or at least 1 defender, would be almost a must-own this week. But it's just not there yet.
They're going to fly that distance down to San Jose. They're going to play this man-marking system. But no, Bush, a solid keeper that's usually a very good price.
And the other thing for Bush is if you're not sold on the clean sheet chances for these other teams and you don't want to reach for Fry, San Jose, with the way they're playing, is going to put a lot of shots at Bush. Bush may not get the clean sheet. He may give up 2 goals, but you're looking at the bonus points he might produce, and that could make up for a non-clean sheet keeper at the same price point.
Very true. All right, guys. Let's
one
move
thing
on.
to kind of, I just wanted to throw out too. I think with the attackers generally are harder to get value as far as price rises and budget changes. We don't know what exactly the system is, but I think it's fair to say, judging on last year, that the starting price point matters. So if you can get some of these cheap guys who are 4.5 or keepers, that can be valuable. I mean, even just throwing Vega in the end, if you don't want to do a keeper, I mean, I think doing keeper is pretty good as far as points. But if you're like, you know what, I just want to improve my budget, just put Vega, because at 4.0, he's probably going to get a price rise just by starting, because that's not a starting price point.
Yeah,
I think pretty much anyone under 5, Ben Bear priced as they are not starters. So if they start, they're probably going to see some sort of price rise. You know, I mean, we don't know the formula. We haven't seen the numbers. We're just kind of guessing, but that's a safe assumption based on last year and what they've told us about the formula. I don't think that's going to change, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's easier to do that here than in the midfield and forwards.
Oh, definitely. But that's where people are really looking for points. So let's move into that attacking slots, those midfields and forwards. Start with the midfielders. Mike, do you want to start this one as well? Who are you looking at for midfield, and what's your general philosophy right here? Either order.
So this isn't quite reflected in my team as of right now, but I mean, one of the first things I'm doing is I'm looking at the CCL teams, because as of right now, it looks like 4 of them are going to be 4 of them have games next week. I think everyone except for Sporting Kansas City is going to be playing Mexican competition, which is going to be very tough. So I'm expecting most of those teams to rotate. Houston is at home. I don't really want RSL on the road. I mean, that's never worked out well if you followed fantasy for years. Rusnak it doesn't matter who he plays on the road, he's just terrible. So a big player for me is Lucho Acosta. Almost got sold to PSG this year, 10.5, so he's not priced as a premium. He's looked great in preseason so far. I'm expecting Atlanta to rotate, and Atlanta, with all of its virtues, depth is not one of them, especially defensively. So I think DC could be in for some good points. I also have Ladero. I think we talked about it last week. FC Cincinnati looks to be more defensive, but they may not be very good at it, at least yet. Regardless, I think Ladero will rack up a lot of bonus points at home with all of the possession in the world. We also talked about Paxton Pomykal last week. It's not quite as certain now if he's going to start reading at the last, but I think he's probably going to. He's $6 million. He's being cast for most experts as an attacking creative midfielder. That's the kind of person that you want on the team against the Rebs with their defensive issues. I think that's a great opportunity for points. And right now I have kind of a flyer on Sasha Kljestan in case New York City's defensive issues don't get sorted out. He's only 8.5. I may have freed up enough of a budget elsewhere that I can move on from him, but I needed kind of a cheap mid-tier person with a high ceiling, so that's why I went with Sasha Kleshin. Because I mean, if he has a good day against New York City, you could really see a prize rise. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
Blayne, what about you?
Yeah, I started looking kind of the same way Mike did, and I built the front seven of my team looking at how do I get 3 premium players in my roster, and then kind of filling it around that. So I picked 3 premium players. I'm torn, like I said, I'm the Montreal fan around here. I like watching them play. I put Piatti in one of the first drafts of my lineup. Just the way San Jose plays, I know it's a road game, but Piatti on his own can get a lot of work done. So he's that guy I've got in the lineup right now as my premium midfielder. I am running 2 premium forwards, which you'll hear about later. So that changed up how I build my midfield up. Pomykal, again, just great way to save some budget, hoping that he starts. If he doesn't, that's at least a fairly early game, so I will have options to switch to if that doesn't work out. And then I looked at a couple of guys on some teams that I like. Their attacking presence can be pretty powerful coming in, and that's Christian Roldan and Benny Feilhaber this week. I love the way Colorado's turning it around. He's going to be kind of the main man pulling the strings in the middle. And if Portland starts to run on Colorado, he's right there in the middle to start clogging up the gaps. And he's shown a lot of defensive work over the last 2 seasons, both with Sporting Kansas City and with LA. So I going both ways here. He's kind of played that box to box, and now he's getting moved to a more attacking role. But if he has to revert back to that, that's just bonus points for us at this point. So that's the midfield I'm looking at here, and I'm going for an all-out attacking style this week because I just have that feeling that this week's going to open up with goals in MLS instead of other years past where it's been a little more cagey to start with.
All right, looking at the lineup that Jason sent us, he's gone with Martinez from Houston, so betting against his RSL boys right there. He's got Nico Ladero in his lineup. He's got Luciano Acosta there with DC. He's got a scrub in because he's going with Paxton Pomykal on the bench as a potential switcheroo to come in there, or an autoroo to come in there and take his place. So those are the 4 that he has. As for myself, so I like attacking midfielders a lot. And the midfield is where I wanted to spend most of my cash while building my team. So I went cheap in the back, business in the back, party in the front, the reverse mullet. That's, I guess, what we've got right here. I think I've seen people call it that before online or in Discord chat.
I saw it the fantasy mullet.
The fantasy mullet. There we go. It's the reverse fantasy mullet. But yeah, I spent most of my money on attacking midfielders. Primarily, if you're a new player and you're looking for these midfielders, if you can find some budget guys, that's awesome. You really want to shy away from some of the defensive mids because they're not going to excel as much. Maybe in a double game week, you'll look at them because they'll give you better floor. But in a week like this, no, just say no to the defensive mids. You want attacking mids, and if you can, find the guys who are on set pieces and corner kicks, things like that, because that's going to give you, or PKs, that's going to give you the better shot at some of those extra points and extra chances. So for me, I've got Lucio Acosta from DC. I've got Nico Ladero from Seattle. I've got Alessandrini from LA. I've got Wynn from LAFC. And then I've gone back and forth between Paxton Pomykal, but I ended up going with Mosquera right now from Dallas. I wanted to get some attacking coverage in that New England game because New England has just looked horrible all of preseason. It's that Houston game, man. I tell you, that really made me think, because since they didn't go all out in that second CCL game, and RSL, as you were saying, Mike, has had a tradition of not doing well on the road and not doing well in Texas. I was like, man, I tried hard to work some guys from Houston into my team, but in the end, I just thought some of these other options were better. LA against Chicago, I think that could be goals on both sides. LA's defense is not fantastic. Chicago's got some better attacking pieces. Maybe that could play out. And LA's got Zlatan. And with Leggett not being healthy, I think even if that was tempting for you as a bit more budget, I think Alessandrini is a better option there. And with Kamara on his way out, then I think that's going to even lean more on Alessandrini as a potential point scorer for fantasy. And then, of course, for a while I had a double Seattle there with Rodriguez and Ladero, but I wanted to get some diversity and go for some other options as well. But so I've gone heavy with those attacking midfielder players right there. I still have the option of downgrading to to Paxton Pomykal if I need to open up some budget with Mosquera, but I'll see all of that beforehand. And Mike, you're right. There is some rumblings that maybe he might not start in game one. He's definitely in that talk, though, so keep an eye on the rosters if you are considering starting Paxton. But Mosquera is only 7.5, and he equally was tearing it up during preseason. So some good options there, in my opinion.
And some good things. We talked about some of the uncertainty. FC Dallas is the third and part of the third group to kick off. Houston's right behind that at 5:00 Central Standard Time. So for me, if I was really interested in Houston, I would kind of think of them with possibly an LAFC player or someone who plays later. They kind of swap them out in case Manotas in that, because I know Houston kind of took it a little bit easier midweek. I kind of think they're going to take it easy again because they play Tigres, so they need everybody rested up. But I mean, maybe they say, you know what? We're not beating Tigres anyway. Let's just beat RSL, and we'll just take the money from the Tigres game and take it to the bank.
Yeah, and you could see guys.
It'll be interesting to see either approach.
Yeah, you could see guys start, maybe play the first 60 minutes and then sub out to try to save some legs as well. But yeah, you just don't know until you see it. Some of these other teams, maybe while we didn't go with them, Columbus has some great midfield options, but we talked about New York Red Bulls already. Might be a bit tougher game, especially with some of these more tempting options. Philly and Orlando, or Philly's got that new system, so there's still some question marks on how they're going to produce. But if
and they got rid of Dochkul.
And they got rid of Dochkul, who in the past has been their bread and butter guy. If you wanted to go with Fabian, he's been doing well. He's been producing well. He's $9 million. Just for me, though, I was willing to spend a little bit more to get somebody like Alessandrini, or I'd rather go cheaper and get someone like Lee Win, who's going to be played against most likely a rotated Sporting Kansas City team. So that's why some of that was dropping off. Colorado has been a popular team I've seen a lot of people throw out. They've got Benny Feilhaber and Kellen Acosta that they can go with. Acosta is kind of hit or miss. You don't really know which one's going to show up sometimes. I think he'll be better this year, but starting off against Portland, they're likely to bunker heavily and just try to see what they can come out with. So it might be an ugly game, may not get a lot of points. And if you're going to go with some flyers with Colorado, you might as well go up front with someone like Rubio or Kai Kamara. Also heard a lot of people talking about Vancouver. They could be great. Personally for me, and if you guys agree with this, let me know. Personally for me, it's a whole new team, and I just want to see a little bit of something before I start taking risks with Vancouver. And in round one, I'd rather go with something a bit more sure than a flyer like that.
Yeah, and I mean, also Minnesota is going to look better. I mean, I think if Minnesota is going to be any way decent, starting with a healthy Ozzy Alonso, starting with a healthy Ike Opara, this is the kind of game I expect them to do okay in.
Yeah,
it'll be the first real test. So I don't see a whole lot of love for Vancouver on that one. I think we pretty much, I mean, you mentioned it. I'm not going to touch Colorado right now. Maybe in a better matchup, but against Portland, I don't think so. All
right.
I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, the only thing I would kind of push back against Blayne picking Piatti. I don't think that's a great matchup for Montreal because I don't think San Jose is going to be looking to possess the ball. And so I don't think Montreal is going to get those counterattack opportunities. That's really been the bread and butter. And where Piatti's, I'm sure Piatti can kind of get some points because he's that good. But not to mention, it's not only just a road game; it's a interconference road game all the way to California. I think there are better options.
And they could double man mark him when they go down there, so it could be a pretty rough time for him.
They're probably just going to triple man mark him because that's all.
11 man mark him. The goalkeeper will be running. Vega will be running around there. I keep thinking Street Fighter. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to forwards. Blayne, do you want to kick us off, or are you still playing around with Lily?
I can kick us off if I need to.
Oh, I thought Lily's making the picks.
She is making picks. Yeah, and she's got two names in front of her. They're the two names that I put on my team first. These guys were must-owns for me this weekend, and that's Raul Ruidiaz and Zlatan. These two matchups are too juicy. These two players are just that good. I couldn't pass up on either one of these. Sorry, Reid. I just don't trust Cincy, and Ruidiaz is known to tear teams apart.
It's fair.
and get those multiple goals. I think he's really one of probably your highest rated must-own forward this week. And I put Zlatan right behind him. We know what he's capable of and how much magic he brought to the league last year. And it was too hard to exclude either one of these guys. And those are the two guys on my captain's list too. And Lily was working on picking those. Right now, I
don't think she likes either of those picks.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it's looking right now. Right now, I've got Diego Rubio in as a third forward. I want to get a third forward, and it's kind of going to depend on what the money does in the back and who starts. If Hollingshead starts, that frees up an extra $1 million in the back on my lineup, but I'm not putting him out there until I know that. And if I can get a little bit of extra money, I'll upgrade Rubio. If I can't get quite to where I want to, I'll probably grab a midfielder that eats up the rest of that money and put him in my lineup.
Mike, what about you? Who are you going with, and what is your general strategy?
I don't know if I have too much of a general strategy other than just look for the biggest matchups that I think are really opportune for a lot of goals. I'm kind of on my general forward is I like forwards who are more consistent as the focal point of their team. That's why, like, traditionally I shy away from Houston, even if they played their starting lineup. Elise and Kyoto, for all of their strengths, I always make them nervous because a lot of times the Houston can either run on the left or run on the right, and if they run away from one of those forwards, that forward doesn't get as much production fantasy-wise. So it can be very feast or famine for them. So I have Zlatan too. Chicago Fire have been a dumpster fire of a defense. It's a Western versus Eastern Conference road game for them. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for LA. Even with losing Ola Kamara and Leggett this week, I still think with Alessandrini, they should be able to do quite enough to put in a bunch of goals in front of the home crowd. And then the other one I have is Burke. TFC's defense has been horrific. Burke is also $8 million, so it frees up a little bit of money to kind of put in elsewhere. For keeperoos or switcheroos or whatever I want. If not, I don't agree that Rui Diaz is a must-own player. I think my other option right this week is Wayne Rooney, mostly because I'm expecting Atlanta to rotate heavily before their CCL game. So I think Wayne Rooney against Atlanta backups with Lucho Costa at home. We saw what Wayne did last year. We don't have to worry about him being tired. So this is going to be one of the better opportunities to use Wayne Rooney. So those are kind of the forwards that I'm looking at.
And for Jason, he has got 3 forwards right here. He has got Manotas from Houston. He's got Zlatan there at LA as well. And then he's got Dominic Baji from Dallas right there. He has gone all in with the forward, so no fancy schmancy things right there for him. As for me, with forwards, like I said, I like to go with the midfield, and a lot of that is because forwards basically are one-trick ponies. They have to score, they have to shoot in order to get the points. Clearly, obvious, why am I saying this? It's because the ones that can do more than that are the ones who can be rewarding fantasy-wise when they don't get a brace in a game. So players like Rooney are good because they will pass the ball, and not all forwards will do that, and it pays off in fantasy bonus points when they do. That being said, I went with a guy who probably won't pass the ball, and that's Zlatan. So he is my one guaranteed forward. He's going to get all the balls sent to him since Kamara's gone anyway, but the guy just does crazy things, and he's going to break all the records. So he is my guaranteed forward that I have. I've got one on the bench for an auto-roo, and that's Dominic Baji. He was doing pretty well during preseason. He's got speed, and New England is awful. So I'm hoping that even if he comes out and someone else comes in, that at least in the first 60, 70 minutes, that he'll be able to use that speed to try to tear somebody up and get a goal and maybe some passes or something. But he's on my bench. So, yeah, I went light on forwards just because I think the midfielders have better bonus point potential. But, I mean, yeah, I was tempted by Wayne Rooney, especially with some rotations from Atlanta. DC has traditionally done great against Atlanta, so I can totally understand that. I don't think it's going to be better than Zlatan, though. LAFC, Vela has some questions about his fitness. He got a knock. He's taking it a little bit easy in practice, so some people aren't sure what's going to happen, especially if Sporting Kansas City does come out light. Why worry about him getting injured again, something like that? So keep an eye on that if you are going to go with Vela. Rooney and Vela are the same price, though. You can't see the double lineups, but that's an easy switch if you want to have one being a placeholder, so don't worry about that there. I didn't go with Rui Diaz. I thought a lot about Rui Diaz. The one thing I worry about, similar to Portland, if Cincinnati does bunker, Columbus was able to get through it. But if Cincinnati does bunker, I think that makes it harder for Rui Diaz, but better for Ladero because he can still work on controlling that midfield with his passes and going through there. It might be more frustrating for Rui Diaz if Cincinnati bunkers than for Ladero if Cincinnati bunkers. So that's why I ended up just going with Zlatan at the top. I think that covers most of the forwards. I like some of those little budget picks you guys had out there. So we'll see how that works out. Moving on to captains, Blayne, what has Lily determined is going to be your fate as far as captain goes?
Well, she spent a lot of time with both cards that I gave her, but she bent one of them. She was a little more emphatic on it. And so there it is for the camera. Lily picked Zlatan this week. You can see the little bit of a bend in it here. That's Lily's pick, and that's where I'm going.
Mike.
Lily's a smart girl. I have Zlatan as well.
Jason agrees with you all. He also has Zlatan. I think you're all foolish. I have gone with Nico Ladero. I think it is the easiest captain decision ever just because of his bonus point potential in addition to the ability for goal scoring against a weaker Cincinnati team. I get Zlatan, though. Is it because of Ola being gone? Does that bump him over? Did you consider Ladero, guys?
Well, Ladero's not in my lineup, so nothing really to consider there.
Well, you're just
but
you're ridiculous. You're a ridiculous person.
But before the Kamara news, Zlatan had the captain's armband in every draft I had.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really figure Ola Kamara. I don't think a whole lot of defenses paid him a whole lot of attention last year. I will say that I spent a good 15 minutes thinking when those rumors were hitting that Ola Kamara was going to be joining New York City, which was a really fun 15 minutes before I looked into the report who was actually reporting it and realized he was full of it. But I mean, to me, the difference is I think FC Cincinnati will, and while I think Nico Ladero has a lower floor, I also suspect that may lower his ceiling this week, whereas I don't think Zlatan ceiling is going to be lowered. I think they're just going to steamroll Chicago.
You're thinking a brace or a hat trick.
Yeah.
Yep. And I didn't mean Ola Kamara as a captain alternative. I meant him being gone increases the chances of everything just going through Kamara. So makes him more appealing as a captain. I'm still on Ladero, though. I think that bonus point potential. I'm on Ladero. Solid.
Sorry, got to do a happy dance. Penalty to Kansas City.
Penalty to Kansas. There we go. There we go. Watching this live. They're going to make it. I told you you're going to make it. What you said, Mike? Reid believes that they will win.
Yeah, I think that's what Mike said. Right. And that's a Dog So Red as well on that one.
Perfect. We already covered clean sheets during our defender and keeper section, so we're not going to do that this time. Normally in the chalkboard, we will get those split off for everybody. So that is who we have for our captain picks and our player picks. I hope that's helpful for everybody, especially those of you who are new. If you're still looking for a league to join, you can head over to r/fantasy MLS, and we have a mega leagues thread, so you can join the leagues that we have there. That includes all the official MLS Fantasy Boss Network leagues. That's the r/fantasy MLS League and the MLS Fantasy Boss Official League. Those are all classic leagues, so not head-to-head there. We will be giving prizes during both the spring and the fall, which are MLS gift cards. If you're a Patreon member, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up for our Patreon exclusive leagues. This year, so far, I had a poll, and it looks like the head-to-head league is going to be our prize league right there. So again, we have more gift cards going out that way. We may switch it up and maybe do one season or one half of the season and one the other half of the season, but we'll see how that is. But that's in there. There'll be more swag going out, stickers, scarves, glasses. I'm working on something maybe special. I'm trying to get some pricing right now. We'll see how that works. But head over to patreon.com/MLSFI if you want to learn more about how you can help support this channel and participate with some fun people. Our top donors in our partner level get invited to our MLS Fantasy Insider Experts Invitational League and get to play against guys from from us and MLS and other guests that we have on there. And it's great this year, guys. You guys have seen it already. We've got Ben Bear as usual. Weeby got voted back in, like you guys already heard, but we've also got the entire crew from Fantasy United FC. So we've got Matt Doyle, and we've also got Bobby Warshaw joining us. Got some classic extra time going on here with Jason Sagini joining in. It's going to be fantastic. We've also got our new friends over from Minnesota. We talked about last episode Jamie Watson and Steve McPherson did the podcast with Fantasy. Dave joined us, so we've got some insiders and some former players coming in. It's going to be a fantastic league. If you want a part of that, you can join by becoming one of our top-tier Patreon members. So it'll be a lot of fun. We'll get people up to date right here. Anything else you guys want to mention as we're closing this thing out?
No, just go check out. There's a bunch of leagues, third-party places that are offering prizes. I know The Athletic is. I know Extra Time Radio just announced that the top weekly winner in their league is going to get some swag.
Yes,
so
signed swag.
Definitely go to Reddit and go check that out. Also, we are letting Weeby back into the league, but it is going to be conditional. We are throwing around what the penalty is going to be if he ghosts us again. I have proposed him having to plug our Patreon and wearing an MLSFI scarf on the Extra Time show. But I'm sure that some of y'all can come up with something more creative. So let us know what Weeby's condition should be and punishment should be if he ghosts.
Definitely. All right. Thanks to everyone listening. If it helps, I hope so. Let us know, and good luck.